Howdy from a cold day in Texas. Yeah, it's cold. Yeah, it's cold. You know, yesterday it was 78. Today it's 48. How about that? Or it's going to be 48. But anyway, I'm here on the Brazos River. Actually near on Lake Granbury in Texas. And going to head a little southwest in Texas here for almost a couple hundred miles. So let's go see what we can see. And speaking of the Brazos River, there was a famous John Wayne movie, I think 1956. Yeah, 1956. Famous John Wayne movie that was taking place in the Llanos Estacado area of the Brazos River, but it was actually filmed elsewhere. Can you name that John Wayne movie? Extra points if you put it down in the comments. Get out of this wind. And I thought Texas was supposed to be warm. All right, let's see what we see today. So this is Lake Granbury on the Brazos River. And I stayed here for, 3 nights, I think? Anyway, been a nice place. Been warm the past couple days. 70. Now it just turned cold. Woo-wee, something coming through. But let's see what we see today. And how about the smallest state park in Texas? Let's see what we see. So this was a place called De Cordova Park here on the Brazos River in Lake Granbury. Pretty nice place. The Brazos River Authority actually has a number of these camp spots along the river, scattered throughout Texas, and so maybe we'll come across another one here on the trip. But in the meantime, let's go. All right, here we are. What's this? A cemetery? I thought we were going to a state park. Yeah, it's a state park. Like I said, it's the smallest state park in Texas. How small do you ask? Well, 6/1000ths of an acre. So that's 645, 240 square feet, something like that. That's right. But let's go see what it is. So the reason why there's a state historic park in the middle of a cemetery is because it's home to the resting place of Elizabeth Crockett. Now, who's Elizabeth Crockett, you may be asked? Well, none other than the wife of famous Davey Crockett. How about that? So the story goes that the state of Texas deeded the opportunity for some land for Elizabeth Crockett because of Davy Crockett's bravery at the Alamo. And so she waited 17 years to claim it, but nobody knows why. So she eventually claimed the spot nearby here in Granbury, and then when she died, she was buried here in the Acton Cemetery. But anyway, The interesting thing about this memorial is that if you take a look up here, she's facing west. She's facing west, waiting for Davey Crockett to come home from the Alamo, out that way. So this is the smallest state park in Texas. How about that? Elizabeth Crockett and a couple of people giving her company. But anyway, if you know the history of the Alamo, Davey Crockett was a big historical figure about that. And so anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking a whole bunch of nothing. But let's go see what else we can find. Oh, one other thing I wanted to tell you is that after Elizabeth Crockett died, I forget which year, but her cabin was preserved nearby. And then when they had the fair, the state fair, to celebrate the centennial of Texas in 1936, they moved her cabin to Dallas as part of the exhibit, and then somehow cabin disappeared over the years. Nobody knows what happened to it. Although there's a place over here in Granbury that claims to have the limestone steps of the cabin. So there's your trivia history of the Granbury and Acton area in Texas. Elizabeth Crockett and Davey Crockett, the smallest state park in Texas, 6/1000 of an acre. But let's go on and see what else we can find, huh? Okay, we're here, I think, but as can be expected sometimes on these quirky things, our next site is not here. I'll show you this for a second. So here's the Erath or Erath, however you pronounce it, Erath County Courthouse in Stephenville. But I was going to show you this. I was going to show you Moolah the cow. Moolah the cow is supposed to be right there. I'll show you a picture of what it looked like. Huh. But Moolah the cow has been on display here ever since, 1972? And I guess Moolah is being beautified. And oh well. But don't mistake Moolah the cow, a large cow by the way, don't mistake Moolah with the largest cow, almost battleship sized. I'll show you a picture here, I think, if I have one, in New Salem, North Dakota. Yes sirree. That would be the largest cow on display. And I guess old Moolah, who must be in her pen, is the second largest. Alright, well let's go and take a look at something that actually still is alive, even though it's near a ghost town. That's actually kind of funny. Anyway, the reason I'm doing all these kind of quirky little things, I'm just taking the slow road towards Big Bend National Park, and hopefully next week or the week after I'll have a little video, a hiking video.
Turn right onto West South
Yes,
Loop.
sirree. I'll have a little hiking video on Big Bend National Park, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, let's go see what this little ghost bridge is about. Bridge, did I say bridge? Before we get to the next destination, I came through here. I just want to stop real quick. There's a place called Dublin, Texas. This is the main drag down in Dublin, Texas. Dublin, Texas was founded in the 1850s, and it actually started getting traction just a few years later, when post office was established here. And then also when the railroad was, there was a railroad stop about 4 miles up in Old Dublin. And then, I forget the name of the guys that's founded this place. He platted the place out, started getting businesses and home sites. So then the railroad moved its depot from Old Dublin to New Dublin. And then that's when Dublin started taking off in the 1870s. Then, around, I think it was 1891, there was a guy named Sam Prim, I believe. He was going through Waco, Texas, and he saw a bottling company there, and he decided he wanted to get into the bottling business. So he opened up a bottling company here in 1891 called Dublin Bottling Company, which is right up here. Dublin Bottling Company then continued on. It also became the first bottler of a new drink called Dr. Pepper. You've heard of that, right? And the thing about Dr. Pepper is not only were they the first bottler of Dr. Pepper, they were also the first bottling company to stay established in all of Texas. Well, Sam eventually died in 1946, and he only had one child, and he left the bottling company to his daughter, Grace. And back in that time, it was kind of expected that Grace would just sell the business because, well, you know, as they tell us, or as they told me, women just didn't own businesses in this area at that time. But she said, forget this, I'm going to keep running it. So Grace ran the business, and as they say, she ran it with an iron hand, and it continued as a good going concern until she died in 1991. And that was actually on the morning of the 100th anniversary of Dublin Bottling Company. She didn't have any kids, so Grace left the business to the general manager of the company named Bill Closter. And Bill Closter started with the company in 1932, and he worked his way all the way up through the ranks from bottle washer all the way up to general manager. And then when Grace left him the business, he became the owner. And Dublin Bottling Company continued bottling Dr. Pepper until 1972, using the original recipe, using cane sugar. And then eventually Dr. Pepper said, no. And then they parted their ways. So to this very day, the Dublin Bottling Company still bottles soft drinks under their own name, Dublin Soda, many different varieties. They used to have a tour, but they had to shut that down just a year or two ago during the 2 weeks of the 2 years it was going on, the past couple of years. And then, but it's still going on. So Dublin, Texas, Dublin Bottling Company. And, well, let's just continue the tour. Oh, the other thing I want to tell you about Dublin, for those of you who are golf fans, this is the hometown of what famous golfer? He started here as a kid, worked in his dad's blacksmith shop, and that's where he got the motivation and then the skills to start playing golf, and became an excellent golfer back in the 1900s, the mid 1900s. So, what famous golfer? Put your answers down here in the bottom. What famous golfer grew up in Dublin, Texas? Huh? Okay, welcome to our next stop. And that would be the Regency Suspension Bridge. Take a look at this. When you think of the history of this bridge, it's kind of it is an interesting story. This bridge, not this particular bridge, but the Regency Bridge, and this area is known as Regency. It was previously known as Hannah Valley when it was first settled back in the mid 1800s. But the bridge is over the Colorado River in Texas, not that Colorado River, but the Colorado River in Texas. And it's a bridge that is connecting Mills County and San Saba County. So it was a important connector between the two areas, because the Colorado River formed a barrier between the two. So the bridge was originally built in 1903, and they thought it was a pretty strong bridge. But then in 1924, a cattle rancher and his two sons were driving cattle over the bridge, and the bridge couldn't support all the cattle, and the bridge fell into the river, along with one of the rancher's son and his horse and all the cattle. So the rancher and one son made it, and one son didn't make it, as well as the cattle. Since it was an important connection between the two counties, San Saba County and Mills County decided to rebuild the bridge. And so in 1926, I believe, 1926, they rebuilt the bridge. And then in 1931, they built the bridge. And then in 1936, a pretty big flood came in the spring of that year and wiped out the new bridge. So then they got to work again, third time's a charm. In 1939, this bridge was erected. Now get this. Let me show it to you. 90% of the construction of this bridge back in 1939 was done by hand. All the cabling, look at this, it's 3 1/4 inch cabling, was all strung together by hand. All the wood planks were done by hand. The supports, the steel supports, were all done by hand. There's a bunch of guys earning 30 cents an hour working on this thing to make it last. The only mechanized machinery that was used was a gasoline-powered cement mixer to rebuild the cement supports that are at the foot down there. I don't think we can see it. As well as a winch, as well as something else. But anyway, they got this bridge done in short order, and it's lasted ever since then. However, by 1990 or so, the bridge was showing its age and falling into disrepair. So the state finally came around and fixed up the bridge so that it could last many, many, many years. And so here it is right now. It's a pretty solid bridge. If you can hear me stamping on it. and it's got a weight capacity of 8,000 pounds. So I'll be able to drive over it because I got to go over this way. But the Regency Bridge connecting Mills County and San Saba counties in pretty much central Texas. And just look at the construction. All this was done by hand. And once again, the Colorado River, right down this way. And if you believe this, 15 of the states in the United States could fit within Texas with 1,000 square miles left over. And here's some interesting stuff too. Look at this.